The Galactic Council had made many mistakes in its 10,000-year history, but appointing Mara Talon as the human liaison to the Karashan warband might have been its most entertaining one yet. The Karashan were apex predators from a death world that made Earth look like a vacation resort. Standing nearly 8 feet tall on digitigrade legs, covered in midnight black fur with bioluminescent stripes that pulsed when agitated, they were the Council's premier shock troops. Their young, called cubs despite being capable of rending steel with their claws, were raised in communal warbands where only the strongest survived to adulthood. Myra had been assigned to Warband 17 as a cultural observer 6 months ago. The Council had expected her to document their military tactics, perhaps provide insight into human combat psychology. They had not expected what actually happened. "Kivik, put down the plasma cutter," Myra said without looking up from her datapad. She was sitting cross-legged on the deck of the warband's ship, the Bleeding Star, surrounded by a semicircle of curious cubs. The young Kirashan in question, barely 3 cycles old but already 4 feet tall with developing fangs, froze mid-reach. "How does the soft flesh know Kivik's intentions without seeing?" "Because you always go for the plasma cutter when you're bored," Myra replied, finally glancing up with a smile. "And because you're a predictable little troublemaker." The other cubs chittered, the Karashan equivalent of laughter. Kivik's bioluminescent stripes flashed embarrassed purple before settling back to their usual amber. The cubs had taken to Myra immediately, much to the confusion of their adult handlers. Humans were supposed to be weak, fragile things. Yet this particular human had no fear of them, treated their posturing with amused patience, and had introduced concepts that were rapidly revolutionizing warband culture. The first had been bedtime stories. The second had been snacks. The third and most controversial had been naps. "Myra soft flesh," chirped Senna, the smallest of the cubs, pressing her muzzle against Myra's arm. "Tell us again why your kind stops hunting in the middle of the bright time." "Well," Myra said, setting aside her datapad and giving Senna the head scratches the cub would never admit to loving. "Humans learned a long time ago that rest makes us stronger. We used to sleep through the hottest part of the day to conserve energy, and even now, a short nap can improve our reaction times, memory, and decision-making. But warriors do not rest when the sun is high," growled Thax, the largest cub, though his tone was more curious than challenging. "This is when prey is most active." "When enemies strike, is it?" Myra asked. "Or is that just what everyone assumes, so everyone is tired and cranky at midday, making mistakes?" The cubs exchanged glances, their stripes flickering in complex patterns that Myra had learned to recognize as intense thought. "The human makes a clever point," Kivik admitted, settling down beside her. "Yesterday, Thax missed 3 training targets because he was too warm and annoyed." His words. "I was not." Thax's stripes flashed indignant orange. "You absolutely were," chorused the other cubs. Myra grinned. "Tell you what, why don't we try an experiment? Tomorrow at midday, we all take a 30-minute nap. Then we run your usual training drills and compare your performance. Naps are for hatchlings." Thax grumbled, but his ears were perked forward with interest. "Naps are for warriors smart enough to optimize their performance," Myra corrected. "Your adults might not understand, but you cubs are clever enough to figure it out." That of course sealed the deal. No cub could resist the implication that they might be smarter than their elders. The next day, Commander Veshtar found his entire cub contingent piled in the common area at midday, curled around the human in a massive, purring heap. "What?" he rumbled, his voice like thunder across stone. "Is the meaning of this?" Mira, wedged between Kivik and Senna with Thax's massive head on her lap, cracked one eye open. "Nap pile time, Commander. Mandatory optimization of combat readiness. This is not we do not." Veshtar's stripes cycled through confused colors. "Warriors do not pile." "Respectfully, Commander," Kivik said sleepily, not moving from his position. "We are not warriors yet. We are cubs. And the human has taught us that rest is a weapon." "A weapon," Veshtar repeated flatly. "Yes, Commander," Thax rumbled. "We ran drills after our nap yesterday. Improvement of 17% in accuracy, 23% in reaction time." He yawned, showing all his impressive teeth. "We were not angry tired at our instructors." Veshtar stared at his cubs, then at the human who had somehow weaponized sleep. "This will be reported to the council." "Please do," Myra said cheerfully. "I've been documenting everything. The performance improvements are statistically significant." 3 months later, the Galactic Council received a formal petition from Warband 17. The Cubs, now performing 30% better in all combat assessments, were requesting the official implementation of nap pile time across all Karashan warbands. The petition was signed with 23 Cub claw prints and 1 human thumbprint. More surprisingly, it was countersigned by Commander Veshtar himself, who had noted in his report, "The human strategy, while unconventional, has produced measurable results." Additionally, the Cubs have not destroyed any ship equipment in 3 months, as they are too cozy to cause trouble. This alone justifies the practice. The Council approved the measure unanimously. When asked how she had managed to reform the most fearsome predator species in the galaxy, Myra Talon simply shrugged and said, "Everyone's better after a good nap. Even the scary space cats." Kivik, now a decorated warrior himself, would later tell his own Cubs, "Never underestimate a human's ability to turn comfort into conquest."